Another Wednesday's coming on, and I've got some comics. Let's talk about them. Hey, welcome to 9 Panel Grid. This week, we've seen mindless mind control, superheroic cookouts, and genius billionaire domestic terrorists. But we're going to kick things off this week with Batman number 156, written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Tony Daniels. This is honestly what I was really hoping for when we got the first inkling that Chip Zdarsky might be taking over the Batman book. A grounded story that was a fun detective story with like action beats, but nothing too grandiose, nothing too otherworldly and outlandish. And this is what we're getting. We're finally getting it now in the penultimate issue of Zdarsky's run on Batman. And unfortunately, it's kind of one of those too little too late things where this is a decent issue. It's good, but we know that the end is coming near, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's not putting the bow on the story that I wish it would have. It feels like it should have built up to the failsafe arc, or it should have built up to Zur-En-Arrh. As opposed, it feels totally backwards from what it was. Again, I like the issue, but it just doesn't feel right for this place within the storyline, and it doesn't feel right when you kind of compare it to the other parts of the story that are there. Tony Daniels, his artwork is a great pitch hitter for any kind of Batman title, as he's done work, I believe, for both James Tynion when he was on the story and also Grant Morrison in the past. He has a lineage of drawing Batman in the past, and he does so in a really great way. So I like that what he's bringing to the book at this time. Again, the story feels grounded, it feels right for a Batman story, and it feels like something I've been yearning for this entire time. So, Batman number 156, if you read it, let me know your thoughts down below. I said I wasn't going to do it, but yet again, here we are talking about Daredevil, number 17, written by Saladin Ahmed with artwork by Aaron Kuder. Surprisingly, this was a pretty decent issue, as I feel like the voice of Matt and the voice of Daredevil really harkens true to his character within the pages of this issue. It all centers around Matt's search for the boy who has run away from the church in which he was working for, and trying to track down, where he is, maybe bring him back to safety, and really kind of maybe explain the circumstances that caused the things in the past that happened to happen, namely the death and incarceration of the kid's father, which led him to be under the care of Matt altogether within that church. It was a fun issue here. I feel like the artwork really sung here, but particularly the colors really helped everything pop, as the Daredevil red really kind of shines through within the pages of Hell's Kitchen. You also see some of the demonic creatures that Matt's been battling throughout the entirety of the series so far. Those really look nice, as there's ghastly greens and it's very misty and foggy. Everything really pops nicely off the page, and it really helps to like pull those things forward outside of the cityscape that you're seeing. Overall, again, pretty decent issue. It's not going to be something that changes your mind on the run right now. It definitely hasn't changed mine, but I'll take a decent issue of Daredevil over a bad one. Next up, we have Deadpool Wolverine number 1, written by Benjamin Percy with artwork by Joshua Cassara. I have to wonder to myself whether or not this was something that was intended to kind of take place within the Krakoa era of X-Men, considering we have Benjamin Percy writing the character of Wolverine again, and he is well known for loving that character a lot. But overall, his Wolverine title, the solo title when he was the writer on it, kind of was, I don't know, peaks and valleys for me. This issue kind of has synergy with the movie that it came out here, and I feel like while Benjamin Percy maybe has a good grasp on the voice of the character of Logan, I don't know if he necessarily has the wit, I guess, of the character of Wade Wilson, or just the bombastic nature. It feels like he tries to go certain places, but it comes off hokier than I think it needs to, or hokey in the wrong way. It's not totally off character, but it just feels a little bit, I don't know, bizarre. Part of that also comes by way of things that are actually happening within the issue, though, as Wade is mind controlled into doing things that he generally wouldn't do. So we have a little bit of a mystery that's coming down the pipeline. If I were to sell you on this issue, I think that the reason to buy it is absolutely Joshua Cassara's artwork. I think that he did really fantastic work in the pages of X-Force in the Krakoa era of X-Men, and I think he's continuing to do really fantastic work. He has a really unique style and approach that he takes on all of his artwork. There's a lot of grit and texture to it, but it also feels extraordinarily organic that continues in the pages of this book. So I really like what we got here. Is it going to change your life? Maybe not, but are you going to have a good time with it? Yeah, I would bet you did. With our next issue, we have Poison Ivy number 29, written by G. Willow Wilson with artwork by Marcio Takara. This is really starting to bring the entire story that we've gotten full circle here, as the leader of the Green Knights cult, if you will, has been revealed. And what we find out is that this is a character that has been in the recent past for Pamela Isley. Not only that, but she also has ties to the further past of Pamela and the mentor that they both shared. I really like how they're playing with the relationships within this book, is that's really kind of feels like the driving force, especially within the last couple issues of this book, as those are really the things that are both pulling and pushing Pam in certain directions, where she's really trying to be, I guess, her own person, right? She's always the reluctant hero and or villain, depending on how you look at it, within these pages. The artwork here is really sound. I really love the color work on it. The greens pop on here, as they should, considering the character that we're talking about. But it's really the story beats that are, I don't know, the most special part of this book. I feel like there's a really good grasp of the character. I really love that you get to really explore a lot with these B-list characters, whereas you don't really get to do that with the A-listers. There's only certain things that you can play with those things without totally breaking them, whereas you can get really close to breaking some of these characters from their traditional models. And I think that's kind of what's happening here, but in a really great way. I love seeing the growth of the character. I love seeing where the story is going, and it keeps me kind of questioning which direction Pamela is going to go, which is the mark of a great story. If I don't see where it's going, then I'm always going to be surprised. That's a fantastic thing. So overall, Poison Ivy number 29, pretty darn good. Okay, let's talk Saga number 71, written by Brian K. Vaughan with artwork by Fiona Staples. It's hard to review these books because I feel like the same thing that you say week over week or month over month for this particular title starts to echo everything that you said about previous issues. What remains a strength of Saga, which is like the relationships, the emotion, the investment of these characters, remains extraordinarily strong. The opportunities, the weaknesses, if you will, of these issues, again, kind of remain the same thing. We don't know when we're going to get another issue. When we do get another issue, does it feel like a lot has happened? Does it feel like there's a lot of momentum behind this book? Not really. It's a slow burn book. This is very much the same that we're getting within this issue. However, I think it does plant the seeds for a big issue to come out next time the next issue is released, because we're kind of coming to the culmination, it feels like, of the time that Alana and Hazel have spent within the circus. It feels like everything is really coming to a front now. And I don't know, it seems like they're definitely going to be on the run, and they're going to find the next place that they're going to be able to call home. The fun thing is finding out what characters decide to come along with them and become new companions on this journey that they're on. That's kind of the most exciting thing. Saga is a story about found family, and I feel like that is something that is hearkening true within these pages here, and it's probably something that I would anticipate continuing forward as the story goes on. Artwork is fantastic. Story still feels resonant, feels emotional in all the right ways here, especially Alana's relationship with some of the people that she's working with at the circus, some of whom who are working there under the guise of maybe doing something different than they really are. So it's exciting things that are happening here. Is it the most exciting book that you're going to read? No, but I still do absolutely think it's worthwhile, and I can't wait to see how this entire arc culminates within the next issue. Next up, we have Sam Wilson, Captain America #1, written by Greg Pak with artwork by Valentine DeLandro. This one was tough. This one was a little bit of a struggle read, as this feels like it was really intended, rightfully so, to build synergy between the comic and the movie that's going to be released here in the very near future. The problem is that while synergy is great, you have to deliver a worthwhile product that tells a story that really just, determines that it needs to be told. There's really nothing within the pages of this that are telling me that this is going to be a standout story where the writer had something to say, as opposed to, we need to put out a Sam Wilson book. And that's kind of a bummer because I feel like this is a storied character. This is a person that has lineage that's been around for an extraordinarily long time with ties to Captain America going way back. You should have a story to tell here. But they're trying to tell a story that we've already been delivered in the MCU in like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I don't know if this is fresh and bold so much as it's like, here's something you can tell people to read after they watch the movie or watch the show and want to get reintroduced to the character of Sam Wilson. Again, it feels more synergy than story, and that's a bummer for the book because then the heavy lifting is put on the show or the movie, which part of that isn't even out yet. The artwork is good but unspectacular. Same can be said about the story. Overall, this is probably not one I'm going to be looking to come back to in the future. All right, let's talk Two-Face number 2, written by Christian Ward with artwork by Fabio Veras. I was pleasantly surprised by issue number 1, and I can say the same for issue number 2. I feel like issue number 1 really kind of set the premise of what we were dealing with, where we were within the courthouse of the underworld of Gotham. But this release feels like it set the tone for the book. It felt episodic, but in a really good way. It felt like you were watching like Gotham's own version of Law and Order for the criminals, and that was really fun. It felt like almost akin to like Breaking Bad or something like that, where you're kind of living within the head of Harvey as he goes through the motions and like goes through a court case, finds clues, delivers the facts and kind of like, talks to the jury. It was all really fun, really inventive ways to look at that kind of stuff. Through the backdrop of that, though, when I say you're living in the head of Harvey, well, guess who else is? His alter ego. And it's really fun trying to see the struggle and the fight as Harvey is kind of putting on a front, where he is kind of like acting as though he's Two-Face, but in reality, it's Harvey who has control over his mentality and his body and his mind. So that kind of back and forth between the two things is really great. The other great thing about it is that the artwork and the coloring, when you're dealing with those back and forths, is done really stupendously. When you're in the real world of this book, the colors really pop, so everything that is grotesque looks grotesque, like half of Harvey's face. When you're in the dream world, those same colors are extraordinarily vivid and they pop, and it really makes a nice back and forth between when you're in the real world and when you're inside Harvey's head, dealing with Two-Face as the main character who's kind of negotiating to take control. It's really fun. I'm so happy that this is the book that it's turning out to be because I feel like it's, I don't know, something that's missing within the comic landscape where we could possibly get something that is episodic, kind of like an episode of the week kind of thing where it doesn't have to be so much of an overarching thing, but you just get pieces here and there. He's doing that really well within the pages of this book, and I'm really excited to continue on with this series. And with my runner-up pick of the week, let's talk The Ultimates number 8, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Juan Frigeri. I think that Dennis Camp has found this voice for himself where he's able to really deliver weighty, heavy ideas and notions, sometimes with characteristics and sometimes like leaning on the sci-fi, but he's able to take these really complex ideas and really explain them and deliver them in a really concise, compact way that makes it easily understandable. It's kind of shown within this issue as we get the Guardians of the Galaxy of this universe and of this time frame that are all extraordinarily inherently different, but also have ties to the America Chavez within this universe, way more so than we ever could have anticipated. A lot of things that are happening with the characters and maybe what's happening, and it really opens up the entire Ultimate Universe as now we're not totally confined to Earth, but now we understand that there's way more things happening within this universe as opposed to this planet. Really cool, fun ideas here. And I feel like Juan Frigeri has opened up as a storyteller as well as his visual storytelling capabilities. I feel like from issue 1 till now have totally skyrocketed. And I don't know if that's a level of trust between Dennis Camp and Juan Frigeri that has been built over working together over this last year. But whatever it is, it's really showing as I really feel like this book flows in a really great way. I love what they're delivering here. I feel like this is the glue that holds the Ultimate Universe together. And again, month over month, I'm excited to get the new issue when it's released. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Absolute Superman number 3, written by Jason Aaron with artwork by Rafa Sandoval. This is a really fun exploration of Kal-El as a maybe preteen on Krypton before the explosion happens. And you really get to see the influence that his parents have had on him for a much longer period of time than he did within the DCU proper. I love seeing how their influence on him has really influenced the actions that he takes, which are sometimes defiant in the eyes of other Kryptonians. It's really nice to see how that character has grown, developed, and really starts to make choices for himself that are very much akin to what the DCU proper is like, but just slightly askew, but enough to where he keeps his own characteristics very sound and very fluid. The one thing I like about this is actually the one thing that I griped about in the previous issue. Both Lois Lane and Clark Kent, who, is Kal-El, are both reporters for the Daily Planet in the DCU proper. And we kind of see how Lois Lane was, shoehorned into starting to write a story here and use journalistic things in issue number 2, but it was done so in a very clunky way. We kind of get delivered that same aspect of Kal-El on Krypton, and it feels so much more natural the way that that's delivered, and it felt so much more real and resonant as something that he is doing as opposed to something that he is. I kind of like that aspect of the character, and I kind of like the aspect of how it was delivered to us within the pages of this issue. Rafa Sandoval's artwork continues to shine. I feel like he's less talked about, but of the same ilk of people like Dan Mora and Jorge Jimenez. I feel like in 2025, that's going to be a name that we talk about throughout the entirety of the year if he keeps up the caliber of work that he's done in the House of Brainiac story within Action Comics and Superman, and now within Absolute Superman itself. So if he keeps this up, this is going to line up to be a fantastic artist for this year, and it's also going to line up to be a fantastic book for the remainder of this year. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.